During the summer of 2010, I moved to San Francisco along with my wife Shauna and our 3 kids at the time who were ages 2, 4, and 6. But we didn't come here alone. In total, there were 14 of us who moved to San Francisco for the explicit purpose of starting Epic Church. When we moved here as a small group, there was a really big group who was making sure that this church could get off the ground. In fact, over 20 churches and hundreds of individuals gave north of $1 million to help Epic Church get off the ground in those early years. When I look back, what amazes me is that they wanted to be a part of something significant, even though they were not going to be directly benefiting from this new church. We didn't know how this was going to work. We didn't know where we were going to meet. We didn't even know if anyone was actually going to show up when we opened our doors that first day. But we knew that God had called us. And when you have a calling and you become convinced of something that God has for you, you take that first step and the rest is up to God. So on February 13th, 2011, we opened Epic Church at the W Hotel right here in Soma at the corner of 3rd and Howard Street. About a month later, we kicked off our first session of Epic Groups. We were excited and we had 4 groups to choose from. It's incredible to think back from that first session of Epic Groups to the now 40 or so groups that we have currently within our church. It was that first year also when we kicked off the first version of the Hope Project. Now, it didn't make a lot of sense rationally because we were still a partner on support from all of these other churches. But as a church that was about 10 months old, we said we, from day one, want to be the kind of church that leverages what God has given us, not just for what would happen in the walls of our own church, but to make an impact locally, nationally, and globally. That first year, we set a big goal, which was really big at the time, $20,000. And our church gave over $40,000 towards that goal. I'm amazed as I look back and think from that day until today, church, we have given over $1.5 million to causes outside of ourselves, organizations, nonprofits, churches, both here in San Francisco as well as around the world. Early on, we realized that we weren't going to be able to be at the W Hotel forever. So we began to gather and pray and to seek the next space that God might have for Epic Church. And we signed a 3-year lease at 543 Howard Street between 1st and 2nd, just a block and a half down from the hotel. This gave us space 24/7, and immediately with a more permanent space, our church began to grow. In fact, we had only been in this new space for 1 month when we had to add a second Sunday gathering. Early on, I wasn't sure if there would be any other kids step into our church other than my own children. And both as a pastor and a dad, I'm thankful to tell you that that has become so different than whatever I expected in the early days. During Epic's first year, we averaged 18 kids. And currently, we are averaging over 100 kids plus 15 students on any given Sunday. As 2014 began, we were outgrowing our space at Howard Street, and we were also nearing the end of our 3-year lease there. We began to pray and to seek what God's next location would be for Epic Church. We signed a lease at 250 Stevenson Street, but for us to be able to move into that space, it was going to take generosity and sacrifice unlike any other time in Epic's short history. But once again, the people within our church community rose to the occasion, giving nearly $1.5 million so that we could build out the space, so that we could furnish the space and take care of all the other related costs at 250 Stevenson Street. Since moving into our current space, our church has continued to grow. We started a ministry area called Sacred Vocation because we care so deeply about the intersection of faith and work. From that very first Hope Project, our partnerships have continued to expand. Our local partners include Bessie Carmichael School, Because Justice Matters, City Impact, Foster the Bay, and Mobilize Love. We've also helped new churches get started here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area in places like San Jose and Mountain View, down in LA, up in Portland, over in Denver, as well as Montreal. We currently have global partnerships in Uganda, Vietnam, Romania, Ghana, Chile, and Guatemala. In May of 2019, we held our first ever Focus Retreat, an entire weekend away for the Epic Church community. So much has happened in our short history, but my favorite part is the hundreds of stories of life change that have taken place here at Epic. Whether we're talking about the 200 plus baptisms that have happened at Epic, I'm thinking about every single child who has been dedicated at Epic. I'm thinking about the next steps that every single person in our community has taken in their own spiritual growth. We come from over 60 nations. We're young and we're old. We're single and we're married. We have vocations in every single industry here. And though we're so diverse, we are one family pursuing God's collective vision for our lives, for our church, our city, and our world. In every season here at Epic, we've tried to do two things. Number one, tell God thank you for all that He's done up until this point, and there are so many things to thank Him for. But number two is to ask Him this question: God, what is it that's next for Epic Church? We are so grateful to God for all that He has done at Epic so far, but we also believe that now is the time to secure a more permanent space. We think it's really important that we have an even greater presence in our city moving forward. We want to announce to our city that Epic Church is here to stay.